You want to invite them over? Mum dropped her coffee mug and it shattered across our kitchen tiles. Jennifer, honey, those kids tortured you for years. Why would you... Trust me. I knelt down, carefully picking up the ceramic pieces. Each sharp edge reminded me of how Jessica Rodriguez had carved freak into my locker with her car keys. How Tyler Brooks had held my head underwater in the school pool until I nearly drowned. How Amanda Sullivan had posted those photos of me in the locker room shower online for the entire school to see. But they didn't know what I knew now. They didn't know that my quiet, gentle father, the man who brought me hot chocolate when I cried, who taught me to change a tyre, who never raised his voice, had 17 bodies buried in our backyard garden. I need to do this, Mum, for closure. The lie rolled off my tongue easily. 4 extra years of life experience had taught me to be a better liar. She studied my face with worried eyes. Are you sure? After what happened at graduation, I'm sure. The graduation incident, when Tyler had dumped pig's blood all over my white dress during the ceremony, Carrie style, while Jessica filmed it and Amanda led the laughter. The video had gone viral locally. Westfield Pig Girl, they'd called me online. That night, I'd driven to Miller's Bridge with a bottle of my father's sleeping pills, planning to end it all. But a drunk driver had beaten me to it 4 years later anyway. Now I had a second chance, and I knew exactly how to use it. When do you want to have this gathering? Mum asked, still sceptical. Next Saturday. Tell Dad we're having guests for dinner. I smiled, remembering how proud Dad always got when he could show off his cooking. He made the most incredible marinara sauce, thick, rich, with just a hint of something metallic that I'd never been able to identify. Until I'd walked into his workshop that night in 2019, looking for a screwdriver, and found him dissolving finger bones in acid. He'll be so happy, Mum said, brightening. You know how he loves entertaining. Oh, I knew exactly how much Dad loved entertaining. The next Monday, at Westfield High, I put my plan into motion. Instead of hiding in the library during lunch like I used to, I walked straight to the popular kids' table where Jessica held court. Jennifer? Jessica looked up, mascara perfectly applied, blonde hair catching the fluorescent lights. What do you want, loser? I wanted to invite you to my house this Saturday. All of you. I kept my voice steady, innocent. My parents are throwing a dinner party and I thought it would be nice if we could start over. Tyler nearly choked on his sandwich. Are you serious? After graduation, you think we'd want to come to your freak house? My father's making his famous pasta. I let a small, mysterious smile play at my lips. Trust me, it's to die for. Amanda leaned forward, intrigued despite herself. Why would you want us there? We're not exactly friends. Maybe I'm tired of being enemies. Another lie smooth as silk. Besides, you've all been so curious about my family. My father especially. He's very interesting once you get to know him. That got their attention. My father was something of a local mystery. The quiet man who worked odd hours, drove an unmarked van, and somehow afforded our nice house on Elm Street, despite no one knowing exactly what he did for a living. What does your dad actually do? Jessica asked, leaning in. Come Saturday and find out. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Jessica, wear something nice. My father appreciates presentation. I walked away, hearing them whisper behind me, perfect. Curiosity was such a powerful motivator. That afternoon, I stopped by Miller's Hardware, the same place where Dad bought his lime and plastic sheeting every few months. Though I'd never understood why until after my rebirth. Old Mr. Miller was behind the counter, same as always. Jennifer, haven't seen you in here before. What can I help you with? I need to buy a lock for my bedroom door. I pulled out the cash I'd been saving from my part-time job at the movie theatre. Something really secure. The kind that once it's locked from the outside, you can't get out. Mr. Miller raised an eyebrow. Planning to keep someone in there? Something like that, I smiled sweetly. Also, do you sell soundproofing materials? By Wednesday, Jessica had texted me, something that had never happened in my original timeline. Fine, we'll come to your weird dinner party, but this better not be some pathetic attempt to buy our friendship. I texted back, Saturday at 7 p.m, 1247 Elm Street. Can't wait to see you all. Thursday, I helped Dad prepare the basement. We'd always called it his workshop, but I now knew it was where he took his projects after the initial work was done upstairs. The soundproofing I'd installed in my bedroom would work perfectly down there too. Expecting a big crowd, sweethearts? Dad asked, watching me arrange folding chairs around his workbench. Just a few school friends. They've been giving me trouble, and I thought, maybe if they got to know the real us, things would change. Dad's eyes gleamed with understanding. The real us. I see. He patted my shoulder with hands that I now knew had ended 17 lives. You know, Jennifer, sometimes people need to learn respect the hard way. Exactly what I was thinking, Dad. Friday night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart racing with anticipation. In my original life, I'd spent this night crying myself to sleep, dreading another week of torture. But now I felt powerful. Tomorrow, Jessica Rodriguez, Tyler Brooks, and Amanda Sullivan would walk into my house expecting dinner and entertainment. They'd get both, just not the kind they were expecting. And the beautiful thing was, they'd chosen to come. No one was forcing them. They were walking into my trap with eyes wide open, driven by the same cruel curiosity that had made them torment me for years. My father would finally get to meet the people who'd hurt his little girl, and I knew exactly how protective Dad could be when someone threatened his family. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. Saturday evening arrived with a crisp autumn breeze that rattled our windows. I stood in my bedroom, applying lipstick with steady hands while watching Dad's van pull into the garage through my mirror. He'd been gone since noon on what Mum called his weekend errands. The van's back doors slammed shut with a metallic thud that made me smile. Jennifer, Mum called from downstairs. Your friends are here. Friends. The word tasted bitter, but I painted on my sweetest expression and descended the staircase. Jessica stood in our foyer wearing a tight red dress that probably cost more than my monthly movie theatre paycheck. Tyler flanked her left in an expensive Letterman jacket, while Amanda posed to her right in designer jeans and heels. Wow, Jessica said, scanning our modest living room with barely concealed disdain. This is cozy. Thank you. I clasped my hands together, the picture of nervous gratitude. I am so glad you came. Dad's been cooking all day. Where is the mysterious Mr. Hayes? Amanda asked, craning her neck toward the kitchen. I'm dying to meet him. Tyler snorted, probably hiding because he's embarrassed by his freak daughter. The old me would have flinched. Instead, I felt a warm flutter of anticipation. Actually, he's just finishing up in his workshop. He'll be up any minute. Workshop? Jessica's eyebrows rose. What kind of work does he do again? He helps people with their problems. The truth, technically. Very hands-on solutions. Footsteps echoed from the basement stairs. Dad emerged through the kitchen door, wiping his hands on a dish towel. At 52, Robert Hayes looked like any suburban father, salt and pepper hair, kind brown eyes, and a gentle smile that had fooled our entire neighbourhood for decades. You must be Jennifer's classmates, he said warmly, extending a clean hand to Tyler. I've heard so much about you. Tyler shook it, puffing out his chest. All good things, I hope. Oh, very detailed things. Dad's grip lingered a moment too long. Jessica Rodriguez, right? Star of the cheerleading squad. And Amanda Sullivan, your father owns Sullivan's Auto Parts. Amanda beamed. You know my dad? We've crossed paths, Small town. Dad moved to Jessica, taking her manicured hand in both of his. And the famous Jessica. Jennifer's told me fascinating stories about your creative projects together. Jessica shot me a confused glance. Creative projects? I'd never called her torment creative before. Dinner's almost ready, Dad continued. I hope you're hungry. I made extra since Jennifer mentioned you all have such big appetites. We moved to the dining room, where Mum had set her best china. Dad excused himself to check the pasta, leaving us with Mum's nervous chatter about the weather and college applications. Your dad seems really nice, Amanda whispered to me. Kind of intense, but nice. He takes his hospitality seriously. I poured wine from the bottle Dad had left on the table, something expensive from his private collection. He says guests should always leave satisfied. Tyler grabbed his glass immediately. Finally, some decent alcohol. My parents only buy the cheap stuff. Jessica sipped hers more delicately. This is actually really good. What is it? I read the label Dad had carefully steamed off and replaced. Chateau Margaux, 1995. Dad saves the good bottles for special occasions. Special how? Amanda asked. When he really wants to make an impression. Dad returned with a massive serving bowl of pasta, the marinara sauce gleaming under our dining room chandelier. The metallic undertone seemed stronger tonight, almost copper bright. This smells incredible, Mr. Hayes, Jessica said, accepting a generous portion. Family recipe, Dad replied, settling into his chair at the head of the table. The secret ingredient took me years to perfect. Tyler was already stuffing his face. What is it? The secret ingredient? Dad's eyes met mine across the table. It's iron-rich, very good for young people who need more substance in their diet. I nearly choked on my wine. Iron-rich, of course. So, Mr. Hayes, Jessica said between bites, Jennifer's been so mysterious about what you do for work. Care to enlighten us? Dad chewed thoughtfully. I'm in waste management, you could say. I help people dispose of things they no longer need. Like a garbage man, Tyler laughed. More specialised than that? Dad's smile never wavered. Some waste requires very careful handling. Biological waste, for instance. Things that could cause problems if not properly processed. Amanda leaned forward, intrigued by the wine. That sounds complicated. It is, but I've developed quite efficient methods over the years. The key is having the right tools and plenty of space. Dad gestured vaguely toward the basement. My workshop downstairs has everything I need. Could we see it? Jessica asked suddenly. I love seeing how creative people work. My heart nearly stopped. This wasn't part of the plan. They were supposed to eat, get comfortable, maybe have another drink. But Jessica's competitive nature was kicking in. She probably wanted to find something to mock later. I don't think, I started. Of course, Dad interrupted smoothly. After dinner, I'm quite proud of my setup down there. The pasta was disappearing quickly. Dad had outdone himself. It was legitimately delicious, despite the horrifying knowledge of what gave it that unique flavour. Tyler was on his second helping. Amanda was giggling at everything, and even Jessica seemed genuinely relaxed for the first time since I'd known her. This wine is making me so sleepy, Amanda murmured, resting her chin on her hand. It's a heavy vintage, Dad agreed. Very full-bodied. Tyler yawned widely. Yeah, I'm feeling it too. Maybe we should head home soon. Nonsense, Dad stood, beginning to clear plates. The night's just getting started. Jennifer, why don't you show your friends the photo albums in the living room? I'll bring coffee. I led them to the couch, pulling out the family albums Mum kept on the coffee table. But instead of childhood photos, I opened to the newspaper clippings Dad had been collecting for years. Missing persons reports, unsolved disappearances, mysterious vanishings that had puzzled local police. What are these? Jessica asked, her words slightly slurred. Dad's hobby. He's interested in local mysteries. I flipped to a page featuring a man who disappeared 3 years ago. This one's particularly interesting. Robert Chen. He went missing after a business dispute with someone in town. Amanda squinted at the photo. He looks familiar. Dad met him once, said he was a very rude man, disrespectful to service workers. I turned another page. This woman here, Linda Martinez. She ran a payday loan business, charged impossible interest rates, destroyed a lot of families before she vanished. Tyler was fighting to keep his eyes open. Why does your dad collect these? He says everyone gets what they deserve eventually. I closed the album as Dad returned with a coffee tray. Don't you, Dad? Justice has a way of finding people, he agreed, setting down cups that I noticed were smaller than usual, even when they think they've gotten away with hurting others. Jessica tried to reach for her coffee, but her hand was shaking. I feel really strange. The wine was stronger than I thought, Dad said sympathetically. Maybe you should all stay the night. I wouldn't want you driving in this condition. No, we should go. Tyler attempted to stand, but stumbled immediately. I insist. Dad's voice carried a new authority. Jennifer, help me get your friends settled downstairs. They can sleep it off in the workshop. I have comfortable chairs down there. As I watched my 3 tormentors struggle against the sedatives Dad had clearly mixed into their wine, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Complete, absolute power. Don't worry, I told them as Dad began helping Tyler toward the basement stairs. You're going to get exactly what you deserve. The basement stairs creaked under our weight as Dad and I helped the 3 stumbling figures down into his workshop. The fluorescent lights hummed to life, revealing the true nature of the space I'd discovered in my previous life. Steel tables lined the walls, their surfaces scrubbed to medical-grade cleanliness. Plastic sheeting hung from the ceiling like transparent curtains. Industrial drains dotted the concrete floor at regular intervals. The air smelled of bleach and something sharper. Formaldehyde, maybe. Sit them in those chairs, Dad instructed, indicating 3 metal folding chairs I'd arranged in the centre of the room. Tyler collapsed immediately, his head lolling forward. Amanda mumbled something incoherent while Jessica fought to focus her dilated eyes on our surroundings. What is this place? Jessica slurred, trying to process the medical equipment cabinet, the bone saw hanging on its hook, the industrial-sized containers of lime stacked against the far wall. Dad's workshop, I said simply, pulling zip ties from the tool drawer. He's very thorough in his work. Jennifer, what are you doing? Amanda's words came up thick and panicked as I secured Tyler's wrists to his chair. What you did to me for 4 years. I moved to Jessica next, ignoring her weak attempts to pull away. Remember when you held my head underwater at the pool, Tyler? You said you were teaching me to hold my breath? Tyler's eyes widened with drug-addled terror. This is insane. Your dad's going to call the police. Dad laughed, a sound I'd never heard before. Deep, genuinely amused. The police? Son, I've been doing this for 23 years. Chief Morrison owes me 3 favours, and Detective Walsh's gambling debts got paid off very quietly last spring. You're both crazy, Jessica whispered. No. I crouched in front of her, meeting her frightened gaze. Crazy was posting those shower photos online and watching me get suspended for inappropriate behaviour. Crazy was carving words into my locker. Crazy was making my life so miserable that I wanted to die. We were just kids. You were 17, old enough to know better. I stood, walking to Dad's equipment cabinet. Do you know what this is, Jessica? I held up a curved blade that gleamed under the harsh lights. It's a skinning knife. Dad uses it for very precise work. I set it on the table next to them, where they could all see it. He taught me that the key to any project is proper preparation. Amanda was crying now, tears streaming down her flushed cheeks. Please, Jennifer, we'll apologise. We'll make it up to you. You had 4 years to apologise. I selected a pair of industrial shears from the cabinet. Remember homecoming, Amanda? When you and your friends cornered me in the bathroom and cut off chunks of my hair, you said I looked better bald. The shears snapped shut with a metallic click. Dad, should we start with hair? I asked conversationally, or go straight to fingers? Hair's traditional, Dad replied, pulling on latex gloves, though fingers send a stronger message about consequences. Tyler was hyperventilating. You can't do this. People know we're here. They'll look for us. Actually, they won't. I pulled out my phone, showing them the group text I'd sent from Jessica's phone an hour ago. See? Jessica texted everyone that you three decided to drive to the city for a spontaneous weekend trip. Very believable. It's exactly the kind of impulsive thing you do. Jessica stared at her phone in my hands. How did you... You never changed your passcode from your birthday. I pocketed the device. Amazing how careless people get when they think they're untouchable. Dad was arranging his tools now, each implement placed with practiced precision on a sterile cloth. Bone saws, pliers, rubber mallets, syringes filled with clear liquid. The beauty of my work, he explained to them like a professor giving a lecture, is that it solves multiple problems simultaneously. Jennifer gets closure, and 3 more bullies learn that actions have consequences. Mr. Hayes, please, Amanda sobbed. We're sorry. We're really, really sorry. Dad paused, looking genuinely thoughtful. You know what's interesting about apologies? They're only meaningful when they come before someone gets caught. After, they're just fear. He picked up a syringe, checking the fluid level. This is a paralytic agent. It won't kill you, not immediately, but it will make sure you stay very, very still while we work. Jennifer, Jessica's voice cracked. You don't want to do this. You're not a killer. You're right, I'm not. I smiled at her with genuine warmth. But Dad is. And you know what the beautiful thing about having a killer for a father is? I leaned close to her ear. He loves me more than anything in the world, and when someone hurts his little girl... I straightened up. Well, let's just say Dad's very protective. Tyler was pulling frantically at his restraints now, the chair scraping against the concrete floor. This is murder! You're talking about murder! No, Dad corrected gently, approaching with the syringe. Murder implies you didn't deserve it. This is justice. Very personal, very thorough justice. Wait, I held up a hand. I want them to understand something first. I walked to the far wall and pulled away a tarp, revealing 17 photographs pinned to a corkboard. Men and women of various ages, all smiling in what looked like driver's license photos. These are Dad's previous projects, I explained. Robert Chen, the businessman who cheated elderly people out of their retirement savings. Linda Martinez, the loan shark who drove families into bankruptcy. Kevin Torres, the teacher who was inappropriate with his students. Jessica's face went white. You killed all these people? I helped them find justice, Dad said simply. Just like I'm going to help you 3 understand what it feels like to be powerless. The syringe glinted as he held it up to the light. The question is, I said, settling into the extra chair I'd brought down, do we start with the one who posted my photos online, the one who tried to drown me, or the one who destroyed my self-esteem piece by piece for 4 years? Dad smiled at me with paternal pride. Your choice, sweetheart. This is your party. For the first time since my rebirth, I felt complete peace. Justice was finally within reach. I pointed at Jessica. Her first. She was always the ringleader. Dad nodded approvingly and stepped toward Jessica with the syringe. She thrashed against her restraints, screaming through the duct tape I'd applied while she was semi-conscious. Actually, wait. I held up my hand again. I have a better idea. Dad paused, eyebrow raised. Oh? I walked to his desk and pulled out a thick manila folder. one I'd discovered in my previous life, but never fully understood until now. Jessica Rodriguez, age 18, lives at 2847 Oak Drive with her parents Maria and Carlos Rodriguez and her little sister Sophia, age 12. Jessica's eyes went wide with terror. Tyler Brooks, age 18, lives with his divorced mother Patricia at 1523 Pine Street, has a younger brother named Alex, age 15, who idolizes him. I flipped another page. Amanda Sullivan, age 18, only child, but very close to her grandmother Helen Sullivan, who lives at Shady Oaks Nursing Home. The three of them were making muffled sounds of pure panic now. See, I learned something important in my previous life, I continued, setting the folder down. Killing you three would be satisfying for about 10 minutes. But then it would be over. You'd be gone, and I'd never get to see you suffer the way I suffered. I pulled up a chair directly in front of them. But your families? The people you love most? They're going to suffer for years wondering what happened to you. And that, I smiled genuinely, is so much better than a quick death. Dad chuckled approvingly. I raised you well, sweetheart. Here's what's going to happen, I announced. You're going to disappear tonight. Completely. Your car will be found abandoned near the interstate, suggesting you drove off to start new lives somewhere far away. Very believable for three selfish teenagers who'd rather run than face adult responsibilities. Tyler was shaking his head frantically, trying to speak through his gag. Your parents will file missing persons reports. The police will investigate for a few months, then close the cases as runaways. Your families will spend the rest of their lives hoping you will come home for Christmas, wondering if you're alive or dead, blaming themselves for not being better parents. I stood up and walked to Dad's workbench, running my finger along a bone saw. Meanwhile, you'll be living in a very special place Dad prepared. It's soundproof, isolated, and completely inescapable. You'll have food, water, basic necessities, enough to keep you alive for decades. But no contact with the outside world, ever. Amanda was crying so hard her whole body shook. Every morning, you'll wake up knowing that your families are suffering because of what you did to me. Every night, you'll go to sleep knowing that your actions destroyed not just my life, but the lives of everyone who loves you. Dad was nodding with professional appreciation. The old missile silo I bought last year. Brilliant choice, Jennifer. 20 feet underground, reinforced concrete, completely off-grid. The previous owner was a paranoid survivalist who designed it to be undetectable. I turned back to my captives. You'll have each other for company, of course. I'm sure that will be delightful after the first few years. Jessica's muffled screams reached a new pitch of desperation. The best part. I crouched down in front of her again. In my previous life, you three went on to very successful careers. Jessica, you became a news anchor. Tyler, you got that football scholarship to state. Amanda, you inherited your family's business empire. I pulled out my phone and showed them social media pages from my future memories. Pages that would never exist now. None of that will happen. Your futures, your dreams, your potential, all gone because you couldn't stop yourselves from tormenting one quiet girl who never did anything to hurt you. Dad began loading equipment into a large duffel bag. The transport van is ready whenever you are, sweetheart. Jessica, I removed her gag temporarily. Any last words before your new life begins? She gasped for air, then whispered, Please, Jennifer, I have a little sister. She needs me. Sophia, the sister you never mentioned during 4 years of making my life hell. I replaced the gag. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on her. Make sure she doesn't turn out like you. Tyler's gag came off next. This is insane. You can't just kidnap people. Funny, I mused. That's exactly what you said to the principal when I reported you for assault. You can't just accuse people without proof. Remember how that worked out for me? His gag went back on. Amanda was last. When I removed hers, she simply sobbed, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know you are," I said gently. "And you'll have plenty of time to think about just how sorry you are." Dad finished packing his equipment. "Time to go. The silo's a 2-hour drive, and we want to be back before dawn." As we prepared to move them, Jessica managed to work her gag loose one more time. "Wait! What about forgiveness? What about being the bigger person?" I paused at the basement stairs. "Forgiveness is earned, Jessica. And the bigger person? She died in a car accident 4 years from now, broken and defeated by what you 3 did to her." I looked back at them one final time. "But I'm not her anymore. I'm the person she should have been from the beginning." 6 months later, I sat in our kitchen reading the newspaper over breakfast. The headline read, "Missing Teens Case Closed After Extensive Investigation." The article detailed how Jessica Rodriguez, Tyler Brooks, and Amanda Sullivan had apparently run away together, leaving behind a note about starting fresh in California. Their car had been found with evidence of a planned departure, clothes, cash, and a hastily written goodbye note I'd forged using handwriting samples from old school assignments. "Any regrets?" Dad asked, setting down his coffee mug. I thought about the families I'd watched grieve over the past 6 months. Jessica's little sister, who cried herself to sleep every night. Tyler's mother, who'd started drinking heavily. Amanda's grandmother, who'd stopped eating and was fading away in her nursing home bed. Then I thought about the 4 years of hell they'd put me through. The graduation humiliation, the suicide attempt, the accident that killed me. "None whatsoever," I said, turning the page. The high school announced my valedictorian status that afternoon. With Jessica, Tyler, and Amanda gone, my grades had naturally risen to the top. I gave a beautiful speech about overcoming adversity and the power of persistence. Their families sat in the audience, still hoping their children would somehow come home. I dedicated my speech to everyone who's ever felt powerless. The applause was thunderous. 3 years later, I graduated summa cum laude from Stanford Law School. My specialty? Criminal justice and victim advocacy. 23 years later, I became the youngest female Supreme Court justice in American history. And somewhere, 20 feet underground in an abandoned missile silo, 3 middle-aged bullies spent another day remembering exactly why kindness matters more than cruelty. Perfect justice, I learned, isn't about revenge. It's about balance, and balance once achieved lasts forever.